Another team with a new head coach we don't know is Colts, third straight team. And, boy, talking about a key offseason. Another team, Arizona third and the Colts fourth? I mean,
Yeah,
no
what happened?
way.
Why they play the games?
Yes. So they need a new quarterback. There's no question. And we just talked about it. So, again, if you're just listening to what we're saying here as, Colts team needs report, keep in mind we have the entire show where we did talk a lot about what could happen with the Colts, uh, especially at that quarterback position. If they decide, as you mentioned earlier on, Irsay, he's the guy in the room that just unfortunately is the one that has to make all the decisions. And he got very lucky with Ballard as his general manager. And now they have to get lucky and find a good coach, and most importantly, a quarterback. So once they get through that, they do have to re-sign Paris Campbell, so keep an eye on that. And Ngakoue was their leading sack rusher. They have to re-sign him or let him go. Who knows? Ngakoue seems like he's on a new team every year. Their offensive line, just a year and a half ago, was like the best offensive line of football, and it was a disaster this year. So they got to figure out what to do on the offensive line, especially at right guard and left tackle. And they also now have a huge problem with Shaq Leonard's 2 back surgeries, because they're getting nothing out of the linebacker, and they also have to improve some more on the edge, because especially if Ngakoue is not back, that could end up being their top need outside of quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, the quarterback, it always, again, the only thing I bring up not drafting the quarterback is only if Jim Irsay wanted to make a huge splash move, right? We've had a lot of big trades in the NFL. I don't see them going down that veteran back 9 guy, Derek Carr, Baker Mayfield, right? But is this a team that could make the splash move when trading for Lamar Jackson or, dare I say, Aaron Rodgers, right? And now we're getting into crazy talk, I know, but the only reason I say that, the rest of the team, in my opinion, it's ready to compete. There are issues on the offensive line. Even Quentin Nelson had a down year for for the bar that he set for himself. But I look at the rest of the roster. I do think they can win. The quarterback is what held them most. Bad quarterback play set this team back more than any team in the league. All right, they were number 1 in the league in total turnovers, interceptions thrown, and fumbles lost. So any turnover metric you want to throw, the Colts were the worst. That starts with the head of the snake at quarterback. If you get a star in there and maybe you have to fork up number 4 overall for it, I think the team can contend in a division that is on the downswing right now. Tennessee,
No
Jacksonville,
yeah. Transition,
that division,
to say it nicely.
It's there for the taking. Yeah, it's there for the taking. So I know we need to keep this to draft talk only, and if they're staying put at 4 or trading up, it's without a doubt going to be for a quarterback. But let me ask you this. What do you do if somehow, via trades, someone else gets Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud? What are you doing at 4?
Well, first of all, before I even go into free agency, I've got to know. Because I have to, but I see what you're saying. Basically is what happens if there are deals made and you're on the outside looking in? Because I can't imagine they're going to go into the draft 1, 2, 3, 4, and they still haven't made a trade, or other teams have. So yeah, they'll know before the draft. So in that respect, maybe trade down.
Yeah.
I got to trade because I still have to get a young quarterback in this franchise.
Right.
It is so important. Right. And whether it's Will Levis, who I'm not a big fan of, but okay, whether it's Will Levis or Anthony Richardson or one of those guys, then that's why the head coach is going to be so important. Because what does he want to do?
Yeah.
But I see what you're saying. And
also another way of looking at this is the 2024 NFL draft. Do you really bottom out this year?
Think about next year, yeah.
Yeah, start thinking about Caleb Williams and Drake May and start to set up the roster and the salary cap for that position. I mean, we're going into the weeds on this, and I know we should probably just stick to what will the Colts do in this draft, but I think you need to consider all these options right now, that the quarterback, trading up for a quarterback, getting leapfrogged by another team that just makes an obscene offer to go and get one of those quarterbacks, trading for a veteran. But beyond that, I agree with you. The linebacker position needs some serious attention. I thought that was just watching their tapes this year. I thought that was the biggest downfall of their defense. Leonard being hurt, Okereke is going to be a free agent this year. I mean, you could go into next year saying, hey, the cover is pretty bare there. And you're not going to go at number 4, but the draft goes way beyond your first overall pick, right? Day 2, day 3, I think that's a spot where you're going to start looking at linebacker for this team. And I'll tell you what, you get the right linebacker, it's going to be a difference maker because of what they have up front.
Also, they have to, after this year, speaking of 2024, they've got to decide, okay, is now Gilmore at an age where they got to let him go? Grover Stewart's going to need a new deal. Kenny Moore's going to need a new deal. Jonathan Taylor's going to get ready for his deal. Michael Pittman's getting ready for his deal. There's a lot of money that the Colts are going to have to figure out going into next season, unless they can start doing that this offseason and get ready for that. So keep an eye on that, because Jonathan Taylor is going to command as much money as any running back would command. And after what just happened this past offseason, if you don't have the proper offensive line in front of him, then you can't give him all that money.
Yeah, yep. I mean, he's got to stay healthy too. I mean, the injuries can, if you look at history and running back contracts, injuries they really will bring down the value. And if you're not sure what I mean by that, look at what happens to Saquon Barkley this year. He's going to get paid by somebody. He's not going to be at the top of the running back market because of the injuries that he's had. So Taylor, I don't think his injuries have been as serious, but there's enough there to cause some reservation in locking him into a really long-term deal.
And again, who would, after what you just saw, because it's not natural, who would spend a lot of money on Jonathan Taylor unless you felt you had either the Colts or another team had enough of, a top blocking unit in front of him to make him valuable as a running back for the amount of money that he's going to demand.
It sounds like they are high still on left tackle Bernard Raymond.
Sure, as well they should be. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, and you knew when you drafted him, you knew he was going to come into the league saying it's going to be a rough 2022. But he did improve throughout the year. I thought he was one of the few tackles that improved as the year went on. His end-of-year tape was much better than his beginning of year.
And you think he should be considered their left tackle of the future?
Yes, I think they're going into this offseason saying we have the left side of the line and center locked up.
Yeah, so they do need to. It would be wise, though, at some point to add a younger interior lineman, maybe a center guard type, because they need a right guard. We know that. And maybe somebody that could eventually slide in for Ryan Kelly, because that is a player that, from what we've been hearing, has kind of digressed over the last couple of years. He's only 29, so it's not like he's over the hill. But if they really believe that he's been beaten up a little bit, maybe he's just not going to be the same player as he gets older, then eventually you'll want to definitely make sure that you have some added youth on that interior, but especially right guard. That might actually be their number one offensive line need then. Would you agree?
I agree. Yeah, the offensive line needs an upgrade at right guard. And like you said, depth is so important. We can't only look at the starting 5. They're very, very thin. Yeah. The depth that they have, they failed in 2022. I think that was one of the reasons when the injuries piled up, they just couldn't keep it together.
Yeah, Pryor and Kelly, also free agents, and I don't even know if they'll resign those guys.
Yep.
By the way, Okereke is also a free agent, so keep that in mind at linebacker. And McLeod is a free agent, and he had a really good year, but he's older, and he kind of blocked Nick Cross, so you would think that that's going to be something that they're going to have to that's going to be a big decision. Is, okay, are we ready to move Nick Cross now as the starting strong safety, and we just can't afford McLeod?
Yeah, I think they have their safeties of the future in Nick Cross, Rodney Thomas, and Julian Blackman. I think that's a trio that you can move on. You can move forward with.